Okay, my name Ed Santamaria. I'm fortunate enough to be the assistant city manager here at the City of Coral Gables. And I work with a very talented staff. And I'm very happy to serve excellent residents that we have in the city. And I'm glad that you all made it out to express your opinions on a very important project for the city. That's the reason for this meeting, so we can hear your voices. I'm sorry, Mike? Oh, I'm fine, thank you. At this point, I'd like to introduce city staff that is here. And so if whoever's city staff, please stand up, raise your hand. That starts with you, gentlemen. Okay. We have first and foremost, we have the city manager, Peter Iglesias. We have Chief of Police, Ed Hudak. In the back, we have Major Brian Lawrence, who heads our traffic division. We have Jose Oliveros, who's with Capital Projects. We have Melissa Desayas, who is a new engineer with the city. David Lindsay, who's an administrative assistant with Public Works. George Gomez, Deputy Director of Public Works. Solange Lopez, Assistant to the City Manager. Dina Bell Llewellyn, who's a landscape architect on the Public Works staff. Matt Anderson, who is in our traffic and in our sustainability division in Public Works. Brooke Dannemiller, landscape architect, also in Public Works. Hermes Diaz, Director of Public Works. Jessica Keller, who will be presenting this tonight. Anyone else that I missed? No. Oh, I'm sorry. How could I miss you? Lorena Garrido, who is she is the office manager of Public Works, and I used to work very closely with Lorena, so I'm sorry for missing you. Before we get started with the presentation, there's some housekeeping notes that I'd like to put out. They're up here on the board. And so the restrooms are located outside to the right, just in case you need to know. All participants here that would like to speak publicly will be provided numbers, and we will take your comments in the order of numeration. So it will be really simple. All of you will have 2 minutes to speak, should you choose to use the entire 2 minutes. You don't have to speak for 2 minutes, but we're here willing to listen to you for as long as you want to talk, as long as it's within 2 minutes, and we'll be timing it, correct? One thing that I do ask, please, one speaker at a time. Everybody has an opinion. You're being given a chance to express your opinion, but we do ask to be respectful for everyone here and who is speaking to, if someone's speaking, please wait your turn. And then after the presentation and the meeting, staff and consultants will be around to answer any questions you might have, to take down any comments you might have. We're gonna take all these comments, we're gonna document them, and they will be posted on the project website. We want a record of this meeting that provides the full details associated to what's discussed here tonight. We are videotaping the meeting, and so there will be a video record. And we have, hopefully everyone signed in, and when you signed in, you provided your address, your property address. So if you didn't, please go back and do so. And lastly, let's just have a positive, productive dialogue here and be respectful to your neighbors. We're all here to express our opinions. Some may be favorable, some may not be favorable, but let's all be respectful. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jessica Keller, who's gonna take over the presentation.
Can everyone hear me? Or do I need to talk louder? You guys can hear me? Okay, great. I'm Jessica Keller. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director. I'm going to be the primary point of contact on this project. And by a show of hands, how many here, this is your first community meeting in the City of Coral Gables? That's excellent. That gives us a much better project or results in the end. We love to see new people, and we're happy to have you here, and we are at your disposal to make sure that we get all of your very specific feedback. So I want to give a project overview here. The goal is to create a safer, more sustainable corridor that connects people to parks, downtown, UM, and the Underline. How many people here are familiar with the Underline project? That's awesome too. So this project is designed to get people closer to the Underline. We also want to maintain the tree canopy. I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are concerned about the trees, and we have our experts here ready to answer questions related to that. And of course, we want to maintain the character of the neighborhood. That's very important to us. Funding for the project, $1.3 million. Of that, about $600,000 is a grant. That grant comes with certain constraints. The grant was applied for in 2015, a year after we adopted the bicycle master plan. And the grant includes bicycle lanes, paving, traffic calming, and sidewalks. Did I forget anything? I think that's it. The rest of it, the remaining $700,000, is from roadway funds. And additional funding will be pursued if after we get your feedback and you tell us of very specific locations. We've already met with residents at their homes that have reached out to us in advance and looked at the concerns they've brought to us. 3500 block of Alhambra Circle, we've been to their home once. We will certainly be there again, but we want to address any deficiencies as part of this project. The project limits are limited to Alhambra Circle from Coral Way to San Amaro. This is the target project schedule. This is the project schedule that we provided to FDOT, who is responsible for giving us the money. So we have to work with them, and we've given them an initial schedule. If we have to lengthen the schedule to make sure that we work with each of you through this process, we will absolutely apply to extend this schedule. So this is a tentative schedule. We have here tonight, this is a conceptual workshop. So what you're seeing here is very limited amount of work has gone into this. You probably have seen the surveyors out there. So we had to take a survey, and then the consulting team, raise your hand consulting team, Kimley Horn, they laid out a preliminary project so that everyone can comment on it, what they like, what they don't like. That's what we've done tonight. Is there much more that you've done besides that in preparing for the meeting tonight? Okay. Okay, so the tentative schedule now to begin construction in early 2021. So, as many of you know, Alhambra Circle is an important link between multiple Coral Gables neighborhoods. I've already mentioned it connects downtown to the university, to the underline, 3 Metro bus lines, and the Metro Rail. We often get resident concerns related to speeding, lack of sidewalks, and lack of bicycle facilities. In 2019, you may have been driving around the City of Coral Gables and seen, the tubes that are in the street that collect traffic data. We did that all over the city. We're still doing it. But we took these 2 locations at Ancona and I'll probably not pronounce this correctly, you can correct me, but Robia. And the 85th percentile speed was 37 miles per hour. And as you know, the posted speed is... Sure, thank you. I will be sure to do that. So, can everybody hear me? Yes, okay. So, it was 37 miles per hour. So, we have speeding, 2 locations that we have identified. We're going to talk a little bit about complete streets because this project is what is called a complete street, and Dina Bell is going to talk a little bit about what complete streets are.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm Dina Bell-Llewellyn. I'm a landscape architect, and this term, complete streets, this is fairly new. The history of it is back in 1970s out on the West Coast, there was a movement to provide alternative transportation for safety of the public. And around 2005, I learned, this is research I just learned in preparing this presentation, was, okay, oh, that's much better. Thank you, Matt. Around 2005, there was an advocacy group made up of the Planning Association, Landscape Architects, and AARP, and they developed this term called complete streets, and the goal being create safe transportation ways that are not car-centric for people of all ages and abilities. And what a complete street is, the design component of it allows for bicycles, walking, running, jogging, exercising, any kind of transportation you can think of, skateboarding, other than getting in your car and driving. So hence the term complete streets. So that's the history of it. And what it's going to do in our city is make that very important connection from downtown Coral Gables through the Alhambra corridor down south, connect to the UM area and to the underline. So you can imagine the possibilities. How little you would have to get in your car just to run an errand or get exercise. You're going to have a complete street to get out there and do it safely and comfortably and enjoy the weather and the nature and the health benefits of getting out and exercising, enjoying getting somewhere without having to get in your car and sit in traffic gridlock. So this is the benefit of this project.
I also wanted to add that the City Commission adopted a Complete Streets resolution in 2018. We have a number of guiding policies in place. I am not going to bore you to death with them. They're here. You can download this PowerPoint presentation off of the website. I'm going to give you the website address at the end of this presentation. But in 2016, building these complete streets is part of the commission adopted our first strategic plan. We have adopted a new strategic plan. Resolution 2017 is active design policy. Again, it's a lot about what Dina was talking about, is that we want to build into our environment ways that people can be active in their community. We also have the age-friendly resolution adopted May 22nd, 2018. In 2018, the commission also eliminated the concurrency requirements for the construction of new sidewalks on collector streets. How many people here do not know what collector streets are? Okay. A collector street, Alhambra Circle is a collector street. All of the streets that intersect it, that's not Sevilla, it's not Coral Way, it's not Blue Road, all those little streets, Algardi, for example, they're local residential streets, and they feed into the collector, which is Alhambra Circle. And so on collector streets, there is no concurrency requirements. And what that means is that the City Commission has decided that having sidewalks on collector roads benefits a large majority of people, and they will be built without the concurrency. Safe Routes to School, I don't know if you've heard what that is, but Safe Routes to School is a program where federal government, they encourage local governments to build safe streets around schools, and that includes sidewalks that lead to your school areas. And also, the City Commission has dedicated up to $15 million to the underline. And that's important because how many people here are looking forward to the underline? Do you know you won't be able to park at the underline? So you need to be able to get to the underline. And so this is a way to connect people to the underline. Neighborhood parks development, over $6.5 million has been planned to purchase land within the city to develop neighborhood parks over the next 5 years. Again, these are neighborhood parks. There's not parking spaces assigned. This is for you to be able to walk safely to those parks, and sidewalks are a way to get you there safely, so you're not walking in the road with traffic. And then there's the love them or hate them scooters. And there we have plenty of people who love them, we have plenty of people who hate them, but it goes the same with bikes, it goes the same with skateboards, it goes the same with all modes of transportation. You love it or you hate it. And The issue we're trying to address is giving people their safe place to ride a scooter. How many people want to share space on the sidewalk with the scooters? How many people want to share sidewalk space with bikes? This is to address those issues so that we don't have to share that space, very limited amount of space on the sidewalk, but also keep them out of the road. How many people are frustrated by bicyclists who block the lane? Okay. Bike lanes require bicyclists to ride in a bike lane. So having the bike lanes on the street will keep them from blocking you when you're driving your car. I want to talk a little bit about the 2018 community survey. Solange is here to speak about it. She knows more about it than I do. So why don't you go for it, Solange?
Hi, good evening. I'm going to stand here because I have my notes. But in 2018, the city held its first community engagement survey. The purpose of it was to rate the overall quality of life in the city from a resident standpoint, identify those key factors that contribute to that quality of life, determine community investment priorities, gauge satisfaction and improvements of key services, seek information from the residents about our city services, and provide input to go into our strategic plan. If we know what residents want and desire, we can better plan for them in the long run. Out of those surveys mailed out, 942 surveys were completed, and we had a 95 confidence and a plus or minus 3% of that. With that, we can say that we had a 95% result back from that survey that quality of life in the city was good and or excellent, an 83% satisfaction with city services, a 94% satisfaction with courtesy and professionalism, and 87% satisfaction with city communications. This is a chart of the top 5 factors for the quality of life rating that we received. As you can see, they're kind of clustered together because you have your top 5, then another 5 after that, and then it kind of dwindles down. But our central localization, shopping and dining, sense of neighborhood, and tree canopy, along with walkability, public safety, and many others were those main reasons why we received such a high rating of quality of life. The top 5 community investment priorities, what our community wants us to invest in from those survey respondents. The main ones were police protection, traffic calming at number 2, street lighting, public parking, parks and open spaces, and so on and so on. What we want to show here is that traffic calming, roadway conditions, sidewalk and bike paths are top priorities for our residents, and they're all being addressed through this plan.
So we've had a lot of questions about the Coral Gables Bicycle Master Plan. And how many people have lived here since 1978? How many people have seen the self-guided bike tour pamphlet? Okay, so there's been a self-guided bike tour on Alhambra Circle since 1978. I don't know how much further before that, but this is as far back as I could find as far as researching goes. In 2004, there was a bicycle master plan that was developed and adopted by the City of Coral Gables. It's part of the comprehensive plan of the City of Coral Gables to implement these types of projects. And then in 2014, there was another bicycle and pedestrian master plan developed. Again, that was before I was here. My job is to implement that 2014 bicycle master plan. So what does the bicycle master plan look like? On this map here, it might be tough for you to see, but again, this is all, you can download this online. The yellow lines are existing bicycle facilities. The dashed green lines are proposed bicycle facilities. This is out of the 2014 bicycle master plan. This is a snapshot of that. The red areas, which were slightly blocked by the curtain here. We've got downtown on the top right. We have University of Miami.
We have the brand new park at Betsy Adams Park on Alhambra Circle, and just outside the city, we have an elementary school. So the goal of the master plan, well, there's many goals of the master plan, but one of the goals of the master plan is to expand the existing infrastructure. We have 10 miles now to 34 miles. By 2035, okay, does anybody know how many people live in the city of Coral Gables? You can yell it out. Okay, 50,000 people. By 2035, nearly 700,000 car trips will start, stop, or pass through this city. So how do you think that's going to happen? That's going to happen by using multiple modes of transportation. If we don't, we widen streets. Is that something that we want in the city of Coral Gables? So we have to address that somehow. And providing connectivity, multiple modes of transportation, that's how we begin to address that issue. This map right here, this is where people are actually riding right now. This is based off of Strava. This is really, I mean, in all fairness, the majority of people who use this app are the spandex bicyclists. But it is. I use it for fun every once in a while when I remember. But the lighter the color, the more frequency you see bicyclists. And you can see Alhambra Circle there. It's not the brightest, going around the golf course is the brightest there, but you have a large number of at least spandex riders on Alhambra Circle. This map right here, thanks to Bike Walk Coral Gables, shows where we have sidewalk missing. So we have sidewalk on the north end, we have sidewalk on the south end, but between Blue Road and just south of Sevilla, we're missing a lot of sidewalks there, so there's no connectivity. Again, I'm not going to go on and on, I promise. But there are environmental benefits to this. Transportation accounts for 45% of emissions in the state of Florida, and it accounts for 46% of emissions in the city of Coral Gables. And one of the reasons that we're higher in transportation is because we don't have industry here. So, but it does. It accounts for 46% of the emissions in Coral Gables. And by providing a multimodal options, it decreases single occupancy trips and ultimately decreases emissions. There's the public health benefits. There's public safety benefits. More people more people who have eyes on your house, is the safer that it actually is. The chief can talk about that if you have questions about that. There's economic benefits. So there are case studies, and if you picked up, there's pamphlets back there that also talk about the economic impacts of bicycling infrastructure, but I have two here. In Indianapolis, the value of properties within a block of high-quality biking and walking have increased by 148%. The value of nearly 1,800 parcels within 500 feet of the trail increased by $1.1 billion in a 6-year period. In Atlanta, RE/MAX has claimed that the homes near their bicycling facility there used to stay on the market for 60 to 90 days. Now they're selling within 24 hours. I want Jackie to come up and talk about the typical section. How many people know what a typical section is? Not many. Okay. So remember your audience, okay?
Okay. Hi, I'm Jackie. I am with Kimley Horn. We are developing the concept plan for this. So this is the typical that's currently being developed. It provides 10-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes adjacent to the 10-foot travel lanes, and a 6-foot sidewalk where it's not currently provided. The intent of this is to maintain the sodded area and the tree canopy that currently exists through the corridor. In order to provide this typical section, we're going to mill and resurface the existing pavement. We're going to widen between 2 and 6 feet where it's required through the corridor, and we're going to provide sidewalk where it's currently not provided. With the widening also comes some drainage improvements, so we'll add improvements to the existing drainage system. We'll sign and mark the road and restripe the road for the bike facilities. The 10-foot wide travel lanes, it's a traffic calming measure. Basically, the driver comfort is a little disrupted with the narrower travel lanes, and it's intended to reduce the speed of drivers through the corridor. Currently, there are about 13.5-foot lanes on the south end of the project and 10-foot lanes on the north end from Sevilla to Coral Way. So we would provide 10 feet through the whole corridor in order to reduce the speed of the drivers.
So we took this picture just the other day. That was by pure chance. But right now, bicyclists and pedestrians in this particular segment share the road with drivers. As I mentioned before, bicyclists may take the entire lane. That's legal. The bike lane would require a bicyclist in the bike lane. So this is the existing roadway. And this is a picture of what it might look like with bike lanes. And I know there's lots of people who they ask what's going to happen to the grass at the swale in front of my property. And we're not hiding anything. We're being respectful. So you can see that the edge of pavement does change here, okay? So there, you can see the existing edge of pavement there, right there. And then it changes over here. And Jackie, you said, what, about 2 feet on each side? Okay. These are some other concepts, okay? So some people say that we have to have protected bike lanes. And so this is, please.
Folks, please, you'll have a chance to speak. Thank you.
So this is what a protected bike lane might look like. This is what a buffered bike lane might look like. Some people prefer buffered bike lanes for various reasons. They feel less constrained. But both of these options, you can see the difference. So there's the bike lane. This is the buffered bike lane. You see what happens to the edge of pavement right there, right? Right there. So Jackie already touched on what happens when you narrow the lanes. And this is according to AASHTO, Policy on Geometric Design of Highways and Streets. A collector's street is recommended 10 feet to 12 feet in width. So next steps. Staff and consultants are going to take all of the information that we get back tonight. Our consultants are with their notepads over there. They are taking notes. As the assistant city manager mentioned, we are recording this. We will be watching the video. The video is available to anyone who asks for it. The comments would be incorporated into design. Obviously, feasible comments. You're going to be kept up to date as progress continues. I'm going to show you the webpage where everything, every sign-in sheet, everything is online for you to view. And we have a workshop tentatively scheduled for October the 19th, which is a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. How many people know what a workshop is? Okay. What a workshop is staff and the consulting team invite you to join us at various locations. Here we go. Out front of your home. And so this is a way for you to be able to show us. There's one thing for you to come in here and point to it on a map that you may not understand how to read. I know that plenty of people do not understand some of this very technical stuff here. But to show us in real life. And this is the tentative schedule for those workshops. The other advantage to that is that clearly everyone who got an invitation is not here. We sent, I think, Lorena may know, almost 1,200 direct mailings to people. So those went to the property owners. And so when we're walking down the street, people are curious, because happens all the time. When we work on anywhere in the street, people come out, they want to talk, and we get their input. So this is the website, and then I have my email address there, our phone number, and everything is available online. So everyone has a comment card. You can have more than one comment card. And on your comment card, we're asking that you write your name and your address, your phone number, your email, the best way to get in contact with you, because is having it in writing, having it verbally, it's the best way for us to pull it all together. So next, we're going to hand out numbers for everyone who wants to talk. And so you're going to raise your hand, and we're going to give you number cards. And when your number is called, it's your turn to speak for 2 minutes, not being interrupted by anyone. So you can raise your hand, and you can always ask for a card later. If you don't want it now, you decide you want something to say in 20 minutes, just put your hand up and we will get you a card. Who gave out the numbers? Huh? Who's giving out the numbers? David? What?
The numbers are in
We're calling them in order.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah, we'll call one first. Number one first. I have to call number one first. Okay. Who has number one? You have 51. Ah, there we go. Oh, and you have, okay, there.
My name is Mr. Bierman. I live at 3107.
So there's a clock right up here.
Okay. I'm ready. My name is Mitch Bierman. I live at 3107 Alhambra Circle. I've been waiting to see this happen for a really long time. My street, my part of Alhambra is really difficult even to walk your dog on. I mean, I can walk my dog in my front yard, but we don't have sidewalks, we don't have bike lanes. Miami-Dade County needs bike lanes on like every road. We've got scooters, we've got micro-mobility, it's the future. Like you said, the way to get to and from the major public transportation is going to be on personal micro-mobility. And if we don't do this, we're going to just continue to face the crazy traffic problems that all of us live with every day. So I'm willing to give up a little bit of my grass to get this happening, but I want it to happen everywhere. I don't just want it to happen on my street. It's really, it's essential to our future to be able to have a functioning city in this place with so many cars that there are alternatives to using cars, and this is an important one because you can't really effectively use scooters on streets and you can't use them on sidewalks, and they are part of the mobility solution. And I think bicycles the same way. When you go to Europe, every major city has the ability to reach any part of the city by bike or by scooter without having to go take your life in your hands by going into traffic. And the drivers in Europe are actually much better and more polite than the drivers in Miami. So it's even less dangerous there to do that. And yet they make lanes available for people who don't want to use cars. And we need that here. So I applaud this project. You can take a little bit of my grass, hopefully not too much, especially because you're narrowing the car lanes and you're making so by narrowing the car lanes, you'll have enough pavement left over, hopefully, for most of these bike lanes. Thank you.
Right on time, 2 minutes. Who has number two? There you are.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Alicia Cervera La Madrid. I live at 5510 Riviera Drive. This is the second time I show up to talk about this issue, and when we went to City Hall with all of our neighbors that had collected, not all, but a substantial number, we were told not to worry, and they made a joke saying, well, is there a policeman here? Because since all the neighbors from Riviera are at City Hall, it's a great time to go break into those homes, and that's how many of us were there. So we are in a street that's already being burdened by a lot of traffic because of Merrick. We have a street light there, and it's a fare through for a lot of cars. We don't want to add and encourage bikes to come to ours. It's beautiful to say we want bike paths on every street. They're not going to make them on every street. They're going to pick and choose, and ours has been picked and chosen, and our neighbors, and we do not want it there. So we think mobility is an important issue. There are places for it. However, putting it on streets that are already very active is not the solution, and certainly you have to respect the neighbors that are living there, that have spoken, and I don't want to have to keep coming back to my city officials over and over and over again with the same message. I think our message needs to be respected, especially when we go before the city commission and they give us a level of assurance that this is not going to happen. So that's all I need to say. Thank you again.
Excuse me, I just want to respond to that because this is not about Riviera. This is about Alhambra Circle. No one's talking about Riviera at this meeting. No one. Just, well, yeah, but.
Thank you for the clarification. I just see a creep factor going on, and I want to stop the creep factor.
If the commission has said.
Point of order.
Next.
Are you going to let people talk for 2 minutes?
2 minutes. No, I just wanted to clarify for the benefit of everyone here.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Debbie Swain. I live at 4015 University Drive. Obviously a resident of Coral Gables. I'm also here along with several other members of the Transportation Advisory Board. I actually represent the area of Coral Gables on that board that's north of Bird Road. We have other speakers that are also on the board that will identify what their zones are. So I'm here to support this community, and I go to the community meetings in our area. I'm also a resident that rides a bike, that walks, that drives a car. I have a new grandson. I'd like to take him out in a stroller and take him around the beautiful city. And unfortunately, although we've been talking about this at least since I've lived here, 2001, about providing safe passage for the most vulnerable users of our public rights-of-way, we're still waiting. So I applaud this project. I think it's wonderful that the city was able to get grant money to help fund it. I appreciate the efforts that the city is doing, and I encourage everybody to be supportive of this project. Thank you.
You had 3, right? Here. Thank you.
Not clap for Google, right? Just let everyone make their comment.
Who has number 4? Okay. Here, I'll get the card. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Janet Perez. I live at 3519 Alhambra Circle. I live where the bridge is, and if any of you have been in that area, you will realize how dangerous it is. It's a very dangerous curve. I'm totally against this project because I have problems exiting my driveway as is. One of the things I want to bring up, I am a scientist by nature, and I question the validity of the road diets. If you go to the publications that have been identified, most of them are based on 4 lanes going to 3, 4 lanes going to 2. Today, I've spent most of the day with the person who's considered the guru of road diets, asking her to find me data that shows 2 lanes going to 2 lanes and the lanes being, going in opposite directions. I want to see that data proving that that will cause the speed to decrease. I doubt it will. And especially where my house is situated, that bike path is going to be in my way. I will be injuring the people that are on that bicycle path, okay? And I think if Coral Gables says safety is the most important thing, that's what they need to look at. I have no problem against bike paths. I am a bicyclist myself. I think they're wonderful, but you can't put them in areas where it's not going to be safe.
Number 5.
Thank you. Hi, my name is William. I'm a third-year law student at the University of Miami, so I'm 1311 Miller, just off campus. I was an undergrad at UM too, so I've been in Coral Gables now for a long, long time, relatively speaking, but I grew up on the beach. Obviously, me being a young guy, I'm here in favor of bikes. I think that they are good for climate. I think they're good for staying active. I think they're fun. I think they're good, and I want as much protected infrastructure as possible, but that's not everyone's opinion, and so I would like to raise the example of my dad. Near retirement age, lives on the beach, so a similar kind of town with a similar kind of voters and similar kind of community members, and he had doubts about what they're doing on Miami Beach for their bike infrastructure, and they wanted to put a protected bike lane in front of our house over there. And they eventually did. Obviously, traffic's really bad over there too. He didn't like it, but once they put it in place, he did like it. And most importantly, he recently just got himself an electric bicycle, and he loves it, and he takes it everywhere, and he's been totally converted. And so I think you may have hesitations, you may have doubts. Obviously, all young people, I consider myself like whatever the next generation of Coral Gables resident is, like that's me. We all want this. But if you're doubtful, obviously the system we have isn't working. Like everyone's stuck in traffic all day, and like bikes are a very simple, efficient solution to that. So making some safe, particularly protected lanes, I would prefer a buffered bike lane. That seems to me like a very obvious and good idea. Thank you. Number 6.
Yes, who has number 6? There you go.
Hi, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Letty Collar. I live at 440 Sevilla Avenue, and I'm all for this bicycle project. I just moved here in 2015 from Colorado, capital of bicyclists, so I'm all for what we can do to help people become more active and be able to save right on the streets. Having said that, the reason that I'm here is because how can you feel safe riding your bicycle when cars are speeding at such an enormous speed down the streets? And I see it happening all the time. I have a 4-pound Yorkie that I tried across the street in front of my own house, and sometimes I have to grab him because a car, is coming so fast. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to cross the street with that. Unfortunately, I have to say that a lot of the police patrols go through my car at very high speeds too. So I think they need to set the example so that the citizens will follow. But one of my main concerns is a lot of people that cut through the streets in Coral Gables is because the main arteries, such as Coral Gables, Burt Road, and some of the other ones are so backed up. So they take those streets to get to Lejeune Road and Douglas Avenue. So what are we doing to prevent those cars from cutting through those streets, and especially at the speed that they're cutting through those speeds in the morning to be able to get to work on time? So we have posted 25-mile-an-hour speed zones everywhere, but who is enforcing the 25-mile-an-hour speed? Because it's not happening. So I'm very upset about that. I love Coral Gables. I used to live here, moved to Colorado, lived there 19 years, and I'm back here now because I love it here. But I really want to see some change concerning the speed. What are we doing to prevent that from happening moving forward?
Thank you. That mic's low. That's why we're getting that.
My name is James Williams. I live at 3613 Alhambra Circle. I can't see a bike path because we have a bike path on 57th Avenue. That's only a block away. There's no reason to have one on our circle. Not going from Carl Way to Bird Road. I mean, it sounds nice, but you could open it up from Alhambra, where it comes from, the town, cross over Granada, go all the way down to Granada, and let them go wherever they want. They can even go into Cocoa Plum and let them ride around the big houses and show the houses to the bicycle riders. There's no reason there's a gate shack there. That's open space. I just don't see it. You know, it's beautiful. I have pictures looking out my window at the street. What I see over there, it's beautiful, but you know it's not going to look like that. If you know my yard, the roots were terrible. They were ugly. I had to cover them. It's beautiful. There's no weeds in that grass. I tell you, we have these black olives that grow over way. If this is Coral Gables, the black olives are over here in my yard. If I can't cut that. I have to have an arbutus. Why don't you all spend that money and take care of the trees? Not worry about bicycles. Because we have a bicycle. We have that lane on 57th Avenue. We're only a block away. Move it down to Granada. This way you can have the people from 8th Street drive down Granada, and it can go all the way down to Oak Cutler. It's a straight ride, and for the University of Miami students. It can come up and go across. It doesn't have to. We have it on 57th Avenue. Is that my time? That's good.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Can I have one more? Is this a done deal already?
No, we're working through getting all of the feedback from the communities. As I said before, please refrain from clapping and cheering.
Number 8. No. We don't start until you get the mic.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Pineda Vasquez, and I've been living in Coral Gables for 50 years, and on 3516 Alhambra Circle for the last 23 years, along with my husband, Rocky Vasquez. And we are actually one of the most impacted residents for the bike path, because I live right here, right after the bridge. And the reason why I and my husband in this area are very concerned is precisely for what Ms. Keller said, safety. We've already had a death right in front of my house because about 8 years ago they crashed into a tree because the curve is very, very tight there. My neighbor, Yvette Patino, who's there, has had her fountain torn down 3 times. So this is not an issue of, I don't like bike paths. I'm a runner, I'm a biker, I love biking, I'm outside all the time. What it is, it's a safety issue. And if the most important thing that Coral Gables cares about is safety, putting it in that area where the bridge is, that is already narrow, and narrowing it more to be able to allow the bike paths is going to be inherently dangerous, not only for the cars and the walkers and the bikers, but for anybody in that area. So that's my primary reason. The next thing is, I have 3 points. The second point is that the master plan, which is supposedly addresses this issue, says that that area has, quote, low value, low speed thoroughfare, and that is nothing further from the truth. It is a high traffic area. The traffic gets backed up from Bird Road over the bridge almost all the way back to Anastasia and where St. Teresa is. So it's not a low traffic area. And the last thing is that when this master plan was approved in 2014, I don't know about anybody else here, but I did not get notice of that. And you did not provide us, the residents, the ones who are most affected by this plan, input and community, which is important because it's completely contrary to public civic engagement. So we object to the fact that we weren't allowed to participate in 2014 into the master plan. But the most important thing, and I hope everybody here, even though you like biking and running, that's great, but we don't want any deaths in our community and in front of my house, which has already happened. So like the gentleman said, Granada is a better option.
Thank you. Number 9? Oh.
Right here, I don't need a mic. Jack Thompson, Riviera Drive. Ronald Reagan said famously,
Mr. Thompson, if you don't mind talking into the mic because we have it, we're recording so they can hear it. Thank you.
you know, actually, when someone tells you you can't clap, that's the kind of person you don't want to have telling you what you need that you maybe don't want. And thank you, you can clap. You can boo also. Look, Dwight Eisenhower was Allied commander in World War II, thankfully, won the war. When he was in Germany, he saw the Autobahn, which the Third Reich built. And Eisenhower was impressed, came back, elected president, and he decided we needed an interstate highway system. The unintended consequence of that was we destroyed railroad travel, We polluted the planet more than we otherwise would have and segregated further this country racially. So there are all sorts of unintended consequences, which we don't have time to get into, of these bike paths. The big one is safety. You put more bikes on a metropolitan area, more people are going to be killed or maimed. And I know someone who was because of that. So, look, I think reasonable people can disagree on this, but I have a philosophical problem with government spending money on things, and to the extent the government does what it's not supposed to do, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I'd rather be safer in this community with more police and all sorts of other things. And finally, to quote Margaret Thatcher, the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. So we have all this funding up here from federal government or funds and so forth. This is somebody else's money that we shouldn't take.
Thank you very much. Kirk Kaminer. I commute in the area. And I want to just say that being selfish over a tiny little strip of grass like this is futile and not forward thinking. You know, one of the reasons why Florida is the most dangerous state in the U.S. for bicycles, pedestrians, anybody who's not using an automobile is because of those unintended consequences of the motor vehicle. Now, we have to consider making options for anybody to get around in a manner that they so choose. It is not a matter of our front yards. Now, I want to just say one other thing on this, and yes, those lanes should be protected bike lanes. Unfortunately, and you know, going back to Davis, California in 1967, a small group of residents came around, asked about protected bike lanes, and had protected bike lanes made in their city. That network has shown itself to actually work. It's been expanded to this day. And when we think of unintended consequences, just think of the unintended consequences of more people, more automobiles. Nobody's provided any other solution yet, and I don't think anybody's going to. And you're talking about data-driven solutions over here? Well, there are data-driven solutions that you'll find on Streets blog, peopleforbikes.com. Please take a look at them. Thank you.
11.
Good evening. My name is Tom Mooney, and I live at 601 Navarre Avenue in North Coral Gables. And I've been a resident of the City of Coral Gables since 2000. And even though I'm in the north area of the city, I still use the entire city for cycling and connectivity and commuting purposes on a bicycle. And one of the things that I wanted to stress tonight, because I know my time is limited, you know, I could talk about this a lot, is how important bike lanes are in the city in terms of providing safe facilities for not just cyclists who have been cycling for a while or that use it for commuting, but also for kids. My son was born in 2007, and the first thing I did was I had him on a bike when he was 4 years old. And we immediately started bike riding, and he loves it. And what I found is that it's sometimes very difficult to connect to the different areas of the Gables that don't have bike lanes. In the North Gables, I don't have a bike lane on the street that I live on, Segovia. I have to go a bunch of blocks to the south before I finally hit a bike lane at Biltmore Way. But then the connectivity starts to become more choppy as I'm heading to the underline area. And so bicycles are a mode of transportation that is not just not going away, but it's going to continue to be increased. And our young people are going to continue to use them. And it's a mode of transportation that while it might not replace the vehicle, it will certainly become a very significant alternative to it. And people are going to use bicycles on the street. Whether there's bike lanes or not, you're going to see more cyclists on the street. It's happening. It will continue to happen. By providing these bicycle facilities, you're actually ensuring their safety as we move into the future. Thank you.
Maria Cruz, 1447 Miller Road. I am in the area that's been affected with this. I moved to Coral Gables in 1976, so I can talk about moving into a residential area, not an area where people should be coming to see what we have and what we are. If they want to do that, they should go downtown. That's where we want people to go. But let me clarify some things. We talked here about the 2014 Bicycle Pedestrian Plan. Let me tell you who the stakeholders were. And I have the plan here if anybody wants to see it. Let me tell you who were the people that they listened to when they wrote that plan. Bike Walk Coral Gables, Bike UM, Max Cycle, and the Dutch Consulate. Any of you involved? Any of us involved? No. Only people that had something to gain from using a bicycle. That's it. I can't figure yet why the Dutch Consulate was involved. Maybe because Amsterdam, they ride bikes. I don't know. Now, we also talked about something very important here. When they talked about the satisfaction assessment survey, they lumped together several things. Well, bike paths were not on the top. Mobility was on the top. A few other things are on the top. I suggest you ask or go online and look at it. Bike paths were not on the top. Absolutely not. Okay? They were not a top priority. Let me tell you so you all understand. When they're talking about concurrency, you do have a voice. If you do not want sidewalks in front of your house, you can talk to people in City Hall and you can get that stopped. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. If you don't believe it, talk to the people that stop the bike paths on Riviera. All you have to do, you have elected officials that you can go to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I had to explain what they said. Okay? The last part, when they talk, I'm sorry. I'm explaining what was said that was not true. Okay? The bike paths, you know what else? What another study that was held? It was, oh, thank you. Okay? Another study that was made, please don't laugh too hard. We had a study that was called, in 2019, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Stress Assessment Study. Now, who uses the roads? Bicycles and pedestrians. Did anybody ask the drivers? Can you imagine the drivers? I guess they're not stressed when there are bicycles around them because they were never asked. Okay, so these people that have put together this, and let me tell you, my experience since I sit in City Hall every commission meeting, when the staff wants something, they can tell the commission how wonderful it's going to be, and they fail to say, but we haven't asked the people there. Okay, we want to apply for a grant. Have you talked to the people involved? No, first we apply for the grant, then we do the studies, then we do the surveys, then we hire the consultants, and then after everything is done, then we tell you all what we're going to do. And if you have been listening, they don't say it would be. They say this is going to be. This is the way it's going to be. Because you know what? We do not live in a free country anymore. Okay? The government, the employees are going to tell us how it's going to be, whether we like it or not. And that is not the truth. Peter Iglesias is here. He's the city manager. If you talk to him, he'll tell you, if a community doesn't want something, they do not have to have it.
13. 13.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike Connolly. I'm a PhD student at the Rosenstiel School, and I'm an alum of the University of Miami Coral Gables campus, and I've been bike commuting to and from both locations for 6 years. I'm strongly in favor of any initiatives to build protected bike lanes, and I just want to make the point that with the threats of climate change and I researched this at school. Basically, I'm strongly in favor of proposed bike lanes and the need for the lanes to be protected for the safety of the bicycle commuters is essential, and that's all I have to say. Sorry.
15.
How are you? I'm Rocky Vasquez. I'm a law student at the University of Miami, and I am an avid runner. I like biking. I lived in one of these European cities that's really big into cycling. And this idea, while it sounds good in theory, when you put it into practice in the location, it does not work. One of the largest issues is the safety. If City of Coral Gables cares about safety, you're decreasing the reaction time of people backing out and coming into their houses, which gives them less visibility and ability to react to cyclists and runners going through. By decreasing it from 13 feet to 10 feet in the roads, you're making the false assumption that people are going to slow down when in reality they're not. And how is it going to work on that bridge? It's going to be 10 feet per side plus the bike lane. That bridge, people speed all the time, and it's not necessarily going to lead to, a more safer environment for individuals. You have a block away a bike lane already going down 57th where people can take, you can go through the Biltmore Golf Course running and do other areas of physical activity. You don't need that area. So I think if safety is the main concern, you want to actually decrease deaths and not adversely affect the people and the population that actually lives there, this is not a good initiative. Also, just to respond to a lot of your numbers, it's based on a lot of false assumptions. The sample size only does 1% of the Coral Gables population and doesn't take into account the people that are actually affected there. Your Indianapolis and your Atlanta study they assume that because you add bike lanes, the cause is that you're going to get increase in value of the real estate. That's a very false assumption that you're making on that. And if you're really going the extreme of going, the climate change is going to affect this, well, then people are going to decrease their rate of cycling if the heat gets hotter. And also, why not add like for flooding some other lanes to do some other activities like rowing or other things. Like you have to think of practicality of right now, and this is going to affect the lives of a lot of people and the ability of people to actually drive safely, bike safely, and run safely. You're really decreasing the reaction time of people, and that's going to negatively affect the community and increase possibly deaths, which I don't think the City of Coral Gables really wants on their hands.
16.
16.
3516 Alhambra Circle.
Hi. Good evening. I'm David Henderson, 1205 Mariposa Avenue. I want to thank the city for holding this meeting and give the opportunity for the whole community to learn about the project and provide input. I support the city's sustainable transportation initiatives and the Alhambra Circle sidewalk and bike lane project in particular. Although I hope the design team will pay special attention to that area around the bridge. I think that does need special attention because of the curve, but there are engineering solutions that can reduce the speeding and come up with a safer design. And I also support the earlier gentleman's comment about also adding bike lanes on Granada Boulevard. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Frances Reed. I live at 3430 Alhambra Circle. My property backs right up to the bridge. Some years ago, they put in a walk bridge there so that people go across. As far as I know, nobody's ever walked across it, and it's usually covered with weeds. But it is a very dangerous place. We do need something there. If you can do anything to calm the traffic, it would be wonderful. My main concern here are the trees. I'm a past president of the Coral Gables Garden Club. I was head of the city's beautification board for 7 years after Andrew, when we put in the trees, and the roots are very bad. They will not be able to be trimmed back to the trees where they would have to go for the sidewalk. And I don't know what they can do about this, but this is my main concern, are that we're going to lose all those trees if they're chopped back to put the sidewalk in. And I live at the corner of Salvatierra, which is the pass-through from West Miami to Alhambra Circle. And the traffic there is horrendous. We need traffic calming there because they come around that curve. I can hardly back out of my driveway in the mornings. And they go into Alhambra, and they would not stop for a bike path. I'm sorry. It's just a very dangerous area. But I'm not opposed to the bike paths or the sidewalks, but I think that great care has to be taken about the trees and the traffic.
a number of people have brought up that bridge location, and did you bring something? Yeah, because that has been brought to our attention. And after we get through all of the comments, if you're interested in that bridge location, the consultants have already been out there, taken a look, and come up with some ideas. I haven't even seen it yet, so but they're happy to talk to you about that. What's the next number?
18.
8.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hello, I'm Roberta Niway. I live at 1236 South Alhambra Circle, which does not connect to Alhambra. I am all for bike lanes on many of our connectors in the city, most of our connectors. I walk a lot, I cycle some, I drive a car. We deserve safe passage when we're walking, when we're cycling, and when we're driving. And right now, I feel as if the needs of pedestrians and cyclists have been neglected within our city, within the county. I know the city is trying, so I applaud this plan. I think we need to encourage people to get out of their cars, to use bicycles whenever they can for small errands that are practical that way. And this is a way to help our environment, it's a way for us to be healthier, and it's a way for all of us to be safer. Thank you for your time.
I'm 19. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, you got it. Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Mari Chael. I'm a UM alum, and I'm also, our business is at 1571 Sunset Drive. I'm a non-spandic bike commuter, and my kids also bike to school. And so, however, I live in South Miami, so I'm your neighbor just to the west. And so one thing that I'm going to bring up, because maybe all of you who live in the city, you know, you take for granted this amazing tree canopy that you have. All of your streets are absolutely amazing. They're amazing. And so, you know, since you have such amazing streets, you actually could be a national model. If you already have sidewalks, you include bike lanes. It will allow people who haven't been on their bikes for years to go out and get on their bikes and bike around the city. The Alhambra bike lanes will connect your downtown to the University of Miami, to the underline. Build it, and you will probably love it, and you will probably want to build more and more bike infrastructure. So I applaud the City of Coral Gables' efforts in Alhambra, and build it, they will come. And you will be a healthy city and a national model. So I encourage you to go forward very, very fast. Thank you.
Number 20.
Doug Warchuk, 2120 Alhambra Circle. So we live on a part of Alhambra Circle where there are bike lanes, where there are sidewalks, and we're delighted that we're able to provide, that the city has provided those for the safety of our neighbors who walk by, who bike by, and it makes it a very nice place to live with that multi-mode of transportation. That said, we do walk down to the University of Miami many times to attend various functions there, and so we know very well the comments that have been made about the bridge, because we walk across it on a regular basis, at least once a week, and often more than that. And what we find is that the sidewalks continue down as far as San Rafael beyond Coral Way. And we know the names of all the streets to count down as we're walking north again, how close we are to finally getting to a point where we have safety, where we're no longer worried about jumping off the road. And you know, when there's nice dry weather, which it occasionally is, it's not bad to step off into the grass. When it's rainy and wet and muddy, and lots of times it just works out with Murphy's Law, the time that the cars are approaching you is when you're right beside one of those trash pickup pits that are completely muddy, and so then you have to jump into that. to avoid the cars. So we really would like to say from people that experience bike paths and sidewalks in front of our house, they're not a thing to be afraid of. And for those who do walk, the absence of them is definitely something to be afraid of. And I have some confidence. We certainly wouldn't want to have the trees removed in order to put in any facility, but I think people can figure that out. Thank you.
21?
Oh, sorry. Okay, good. Hi, good evening. I'm Nicole Mariani. I live at 1506 Cordova. I'm very in favor of these bike lanes for the health, social, economic reasons that everyone's already talked about, the safety reasons. But one thing that I wanted to say, because I don't think anyone has really addressed this yet, is a lot of people are thinking about this as the city's being proactive, and we're going out there, and they're going out and they're courting these bikers, and they're bringing these bike lanes in. This is reactive. The bikes are there, the scooters are there, the runners are there. I mean, they're there, I'm part of it, we're there, and there already are bike lanes on half of Alhambra. We're using them, and people will continue to bike and run and use the scooters on that second half of Alhambra, whether you put the lanes in or not, and this is going to continue to grow. I work in hiring for a large federal law enforcement agency. We recruit a lot of people who are 20 to 35 years old. A lot of them come and live in the Gables. They don't have cars because it is now cheaper to use Uber, Lyft, scooters, and bikes than it is to buy a car and car insurance and pay for all of that. They commute from the Gables down Alhambra to the Metro Rail, to the Underline to come to downtown. This is going to continue to happen. If we don't do something proactively now, this problem will grow and grow and grow. And this is an opportunity for us to think about being reactive to this problem before it becomes an even bigger problem and come up with a solution. Because if we ignore it, it's not going to go away.
Hi, good evening. I'm Desiree Caskill. I reside at 2715 Alhambra Circle. That is the corner of Alhambra and Sevilla, where there's a traffic light. We have been living there for almost 30 years, and I can say that we have had 3 accidents that have broken into our wall. We had a bike lane installed on Sevilla a few years ago, and actually, I never see anyone use it. And when I see the heavy traffic that starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and goes all the way to the Biltmore Hotel, they will use that bike lane. Automobiles will use that bike lane and forget that there could be a possible cyclist on it. Aside from that, my side of Alhambra Circle is already extremely narrow. So where that concept photo that was showed on screen is on the other side of Alhambra, correct? But on the side of Sevilla, on the side north of Bird Road, there's no photo. And that is where the street is extremely narrow. I think it's lovely in concept. We're not in Europe, we're not in Indianapolis, and our climate is totally different, even from Atlanta. So I walk my dogs. I walk my dogs at 6 a.m. And I use that bike path because there's no one, but I have had to get off of it in the afternoon because cars are coming charging right at me. So I am concerned. Yes, it's a beautiful concept if we would be the only ones using our streets. But we have many people from the rest of the county using our streets throughout the day that will not respect the bicyclists, the walkers, or anybody else on a scooter. If it was just us, it'd be marvelous. It'd be wonderful. But we're a city that's open to the rest. We're not Miami Beach. We're not South Miami. We're not Hialeah. We're not Key Biscayne. We're a city that goes within a city, and everybody uses Coral Gables to get to downtown Miami and get to other areas of the county. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Number 23.
Hi, my name is Robert Ruano, and for the record, and I'll explain why, I'm the chair of Bike Walk Coral Gables. I live at 1544 Murcia Avenue, about 150 feet from Alhambra. I've lived there for about 18 years. A couple things. Sidewalks. I walk probably 4 or 5 times a week on Alhambra. The sidewalks are totally needed. There's a big gap in my area and going up to Bird Road and down to Sevilla. There's a huge gap there. The sidewalks are needed. Secondly, reducing bike lanes does work. You'll see, reducing the car lane does work. It will work here in slowing cars down. Some people don't think it will, but go through other streets or in the Gables, and you'll see how you normally go slower anyway when they're narrower. Also, bike lanes on this corridor will be very important, and they're not really for me, to tell you the truth. I'm going to use it regardless, and a lot of people that I know that are here are going to use it regardless without the bike lanes, but more for my son and other kids and other people that I see on the road. My son is 14. He loves to use the scooters. I don't want him out there. I'd rather keep him. It's not, I'll tell you, it's not bike lanes, not protected bike lanes aren't the safest, but they are safer. So I would definitely propose those. Secondly, I want to say something about the Bike Walk Coral Gables and the stakeholders that it was mentioned. The plan in 2014, we were not, and I've clarified this, but they want to use the same things. The people in Bike Walk Coral Gables, especially at that time, 95%, all Gables residents, all the other groups, Gables residents. There was a public meeting. There was two commission meetings, and there was a public meeting right here. I'm surprised for people that go to every commission meeting that don't remember it, but it was talked about, and so I hope you all support it.
24? There you go.
Eric Tolberg, 7884 Southwest 179 Terrace, Palmetto Bay. I'm a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the county. Sidewalks are imperative for pedestrian safety. Bike lanes do have many benefits. They greatly increase the safety of cyclists. They keep bikes out of the travel lanes. Narrowing the travel lanes slows traffic. Exercise that is part of daily life is more likely to be sustained throughout your life. I know many kids, they have sports in school, but when they get in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they stop doing it, and then they got problems. Obesity is one of the greatest dangers in modern life. Non-motorized vehicles need to be encouraged. Public safety is improved as more people bike and walk, because that's more eyes to look at your house. Nobody looks at your house from the inside of a car. Traffic circles are great. They slow traffic and they allow cyclists to get through very easily. Thank you very much.
25? No, you can drop that off the back. There you go. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Kavalerski, and I live at 6830 Gratian Street. And I want to thank the City of Coral Gables for this wonderful opportunity to speak out. First of all, I'm 100% for residents because I'm a resident. And I really respect what the residents say, so thank you for this opportunity for letting us speak today. Full disclosure, I'm also a bicyclist, an avid bicyclist. I bicycled since I was a little girl, and I still bicycle. I'm no spring chicken, but I still bicycle quite a bit. I'm a pedestrian, and I'm also a driver. And I want to talk about me, the driver. Well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about me, the cyclist. Because we don't have Coral Gables bike lanes at this point in time, I'm one of those cyclists that take up the entire travel lane. Because that's the only place I can ride my bike in Coral Gables. So I'm the one that has the line of traffic in back of me because that's the only place I can ride my bicycle. So now I'm going to put on my other hat. I'm the driver, okay? I'm Sue the driver. I hate people like me that take up the entire lane on a bicycle. I really do. It bothers me that there's no place for that cyclist to be except in my way. That's the only place where I can ride my bicycle, though. So as a driver, you know what? I don't wake up every morning and get in my car and say, I want to nail a bicyclist. That's the farthest thing from my mind. I want to make sure that I'm safe and I don't get into an accident with a cyclist. But I don't know when a bicyclist is in front of me what they're going to do. They're pretty unpredictable. But if I see them in a bike lane, I know as a driver that I shouldn't go there. That's a big signal to me that I've got my lane and they've got their lane. And I hope they stay in their lane, and I'll try my darndest to stay in my lane. So I'm really, really for bicycle lanes. You know, it's a great benefit for everybody. Full disclosure, I run the Bike 305 program for Miami-Dade County, and one of the questions I get asked all the time is, why don't we have more bike lanes? I'll tell you, if Coral Gables built these, hey. I'm no spring chicken, but I can punch you. And I'm just gonna say, let's do something great for our city. Yes, let's do something greater for our city. We can make this city even greater for everybody. Let's be for bike lanes and sidewalks. Thanks.
27. Yes. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Can I have your card?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Maria Magdalena, and I've been living in Coral Gables since the 1980s. I'm here to tell you something that might shock you. This has nothing to do with bicycles. This has to do with Agenda 21, aka Agenda 2030, aka Sustainable Development. So I'm sure that you have heard about Ocasio-Cortez and her new Green Deal. That's Agenda 21. No cars, no meat, no airplanes, no AC. So I would advise you to go to, and this is a Democrat, and she took, as a matter of fact, San Francisco to court. They were doing the same thing that they are doing here, and what they are trying to do here. So it's Democrats against Agenda UN 21. Go to her website. As I said, she is a liberal Democrat, totally against Agenda 21. And I thank you very much. If you want my cards, I'd be more than glad to give it to you. Thank you.
28.
Hi, I'm Gordon Sokoloff. I am the chairman of the Transportation Advisory Board for the City of Coral Gables. I want to acknowledge Jessica and everybody on the staff for hosting this. This is what democracy looks like, to get everyone's input. They're gathering information so they can make a decision and not ram something down residents' throats that they may not want. 225 Alessio Avenue. As the chairman of the TAB, we are dealing, we've made it our business, our mission statement, which was recently changed to deal with multimodal transportation, and it's absolutely a quagmire. I noticed how silent everyone got when Jessica asked, would you share a road with a scooter? Would you share a sidewalk with a scooter? No one could answer yes to any of that. People sometimes feel like they're bowling pins getting mowed down by scooters. Bikes are the same thing. There is a place for bikes, and I actually have people on the committee that are very avid bicyclists, and I've learned from them. My bicycle, and I've been, by the way, here since 1955. Anyone beat that? Okay, all right. Anyway, my bike is hanging in my garage because I'm afraid to drive it because of this. This city has everyone tuned into their cell phones. And I find the streets of Coral Gables pretty unsafe. However, I learned that you cannot maybe change people's behavior, but if you change and alter the infrastructure, then that's a beginning, that's a start. When I have ridden my bike to down Rickenbacker to go to Cape Florida, and they have that bike lane, I feel safe there. I do feel safer. It doesn't mean I'm not looking over my shoulder, but I believe that changing the infrastructure is a start and will help the city to adapt to bike lanes, which I think we have to do. Thank you.
29.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Garcia. I live at 20 Alhambra Circle. I live in the northern part of Alhambra Circle, and I work closer to downtown South Miami. And I ride my bike to work every day through the streets of Coral Gables. part of the reason I live in Coral Gables and I chose to buy property here is because of the wonderful canopy of trees that we have in the city that make it comfortable for me to walk and bike around in my city. So I actually gave up, I sold my car, and I get around primarily by walking and biking. And these kinds of projects where you add dedicated places for me to ride safely are very important to my safety and my quality of life. And I applaud the city for moving forward on this very important project. This bike lane in particular is important because through a lot of Coral Gables, you can be on small streets with no problem, and it's very comfortable. But there are golf courses and canals that block a lot of the connectivity between North and South Coral Gables, and there's only a few streets that you can use to get from one place to another. So that means that I end up on a busy street like Alhambra Circle, and I feel vulnerable. And cars become afraid of me being in front of them, and they honk their horn because they're afraid of hurting me. But the solution to that is to have me have my own lane so I can be out of their way. So don't pretend that you care about my safety if you don't provide a safe place for me to be. Thank you.
30?
Thank you. Terry Connor, 1517 San Rafael Avenue, since 1976. A house that we bought so that I could bicycle to work at the Miami International Airport. Now think about that. In 1976, that meant riding up Alhambra Circle past Sevilla. By the way, I ride on that bike path on Sevilla every day. Miss Desiree, I'll call you if you like when I'm going by. Up to Coral Way, I had about 200 feet of bike path. Then I continued through the streets of Miami, and I rode on Perimeter Road to get to the offices of National Airlines. So I know whereof I speak when I say there is an important factor here of safety that you should consider, and I should have started by saying I very much am in favor of this project. A response to Jack Thompson with his Margaret Thatcher talk, because when I crossed 826 going into the airport, there were only 2 lanes each way. Now I think there are 6, at least 5, and somebody took my money for that expansion. I'm not going to complain about it, but we don't really have to come out to all these meetings and say these things are good ideas so long as they're not on my street. And that's what I hear each time I come out. Riviera shut it down, said it should be on University. University doesn't want it, they should have it on Granada. Now Alhambra doesn't want it. Come on, guys. We're supposed to be in this together.
31?
Hi, my name is Andrew Hytner. I live at 805 Messina. I want to say I'm very excited about this project. It's really fantastic. I'm excited for myself, for my son, for the community, for the citizens. I want to thank you all for conceiving of it. I want to thank you for laying it out in a pretty logical way, it seems to me. And I want to thank you as a taxpayer for having 40-odd% of it funded by the federal government. This sounds like a really fantastic thing. If for some reason it doesn't go on Alhambra, please come up to Granada, Cortez, the streets by me. I'd love to have it. I'm sure all of our residents would. What I wanted to do, though, is I'm certainly very sensitive to the comments that I've heard from others who live on the southern part of Alhambra. I live by the northern part of Alhambra, which already has a bike lane. And I wanted to see if it's appropriate to yield my time to Ms. Keller and see if you could comment on the benefits and the drawbacks that you've experienced on that northern part of Alhambra and see maybe if they address or don't address some of the concerns we've heard today. If that's appropriate, I'll do it. If not, maybe later.
There's not a whole lot to say because that bike lane was in place. I can't comment long before I got here.
Have you, or maybe the people who are responsible for the safety of the community, have you experienced any benefits or drawbacks from that portion of Alhambra that may be good analogies for what you're proposing on the southern part of Alhambra?
Very good question. That's something that we can research and we can post it on the website as far as what the crash data has been over the course of time. We'll post it on the website.
Thank you.
Which part of Alhambra is he talking about?
The one with bike lanes.
From Lejeune to Coral Way.
From
Lejeune to Coral Way.
Because the one that goes from Coral Way to Granada, okay, is a one-way path, which is totally different than this new one.
Fair enough.
okay?
Fair enough.
Ours
I just
is
wanted to see if
much
there was
more
a good analogy
dangerous.
there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
32.
Hi, I'm Yvette Patino, and I live on 3502. I am extremely impacted. I'm on the bridge. And I've been sitting here listening to all the pros and cons. I'm a bicyclist, I'm a runner. Sylvia's my neighbor. The safety is the problem. I'm the one that had to take out a dead girl out of her car in front of my house because of that bridge and that turn. I've had my fountain knocked down 3 times with young kids knocking on my door full of blood. Have you researched that? It's not, it's not that I'm not against bikes. It's that area. You're looking to create a huge problem. A couple of weeks ago, a girl comes by on the other side of in front of my house, right before the bridge going north. She runs into and I hear everything. I'm one of the people who don't have impact windows. My bedroom is right on Alhambra. I can hear that screech, and when I hear the screech, I cringe because I'm waiting for the boom. It's not the bike path. It's the location is wrong. It's going to be a death trap as it is right now. There's many incidents that happen in that corner that the police aren't called because the kids call their parents real quick. I see it. I'm there. So maybe it's a better idea to go to a street, like let's say Granada. I'm not throwing it on somebody else, which is wider. But to get a bike path near that bridge, there's going to be blood all over the place. It's not the bike path. I see it. I've lived it. I've been there 30 years. Oh, the ding. Oh,
No, I didn't hear it either. That's
okay.
right.
That's the problem. I've witnessed death, injury.
33. It's okay. There you go.
I'm John Fisher, 1425 Dorado. I'm 2 houses off of Alhambra between Bird and Blue. And not quite every day I recreationally bike down Alhambra in that Bird to Santa Mauro corridor. Just a couple of points of perspective. I don't have as much passion for what I have to say as a few of them, but while I would welcome a bike path, first point of perspective, it is a bit dangerous with parallel traffic through there, but I will comment that the most hazardous occasions I encounter going up and down, northbound and southbound, have been cross traffic, where I've been almost hit numerous times by traffic that doesn't stop the cross streets for Alhambra, doesn't yield, and the traffic circles are the worst. I know there's no solution necessarily in this room or in this conversation for that, but there are a lot of hazards other than just that parallel traffic. But I would like to comment that I think when we're looking at the degree of encroachment that is an issue for a lot of the residents along a bike path or potential bike path route, I personally would find kind of the basic addition of a bike path, non-buffered, non-protected, to be a positive step of significant value as a cyclist, and where it would prevent, maybe unnecessary encroachment into trees and yards and so forth with a wider overall roadway, complete roadway. I would suggest that as a very rational thing for us to look at that might get more allies for people that live along the corridor with just a basic unbuffered bike path.
And 34.
My name's Thomas Snook. I live at 1454 Mandavia, which is a half block from Alhambra Circle. I've been a resident for 25 years. I support the city very much in having bike paths. Coincidentally, in the spring, I had a goal to bicycle every street in Coral Gables. I've bicycled 900 miles, some of the streets more than once. And I've bicycled in North Alhambra, where there's bike paths. I've bicycled across this famous bridge dozens of times. You cannot base a plan on the worst case scenario. It's a dangerous bridge for cars. It's a dangerous bridge for pedestrians. It has to be modified. So let's not base everything on one bridge, which is about a half a mile from where I live. The reference to 57th Avenue, that's a commercial street. Don't compare a commercial street to Alhambra Circle. With regard to my friends in Riviera, I'm a resident of Coral Gables too. So why should you say not in my backyard? And to the people who said that, it is impossible right now to go from one place in Coral Gables to another and not risk your life on a bicycle. And I would like to see, when we can, ride a bicycle across Coral Gables. And I agree with the comments about that is the future. My last comment has to do with pedestrian and Blue Road. I used to walk, I lived 2 blocks north of Bloom, 2 blocks east of Red. I couldn't get across Blue Road in the morning. I'd have to go like this to stop the cars.
Thank you. I don't think we have 35. Is there a 35? I think we might. Do you have? Okay. Yeah, if anyone else wants to speak, we'll give you a card. Okay. So you're 35.
I'm Jean Field. I live at 4706 Alhambra Circle. And yes, in theory, the bike paths are great. I'm one of those people that say we have a bike path on Red Road. Yes, that's a commercial road, but maybe embellish that, maybe make that nicer. We also have sidewalks on Red Road. I walk at least 3 miles every day. I'm very happy I don't have to walk on a sidewalk. I think they're dangerous, they're slippery, they're upheaved in many cases. I would far prefer to walk in the street, facing the traffic. If there's traffic approaching me, I get off, and to my pleasant surprise, people wave to me. It's fine. We don't need sidewalks. And it certainly encroaches on our swale. One other thing, the city has put in a huge amount of money in mahogany trees up and down Alhambra Circle. They are notoriously heavy roots that are close to the surface. So what is going to happen to all these sidewalks when those roots come up and push up the sidewalks? Then as residents, we will be responsible if somebody falls down on a broken sidewalk in front of our house, and it's one more thing to maintain. Thank you.
Was there a 36 that was given out? Yes.
Hi, I want to thank you for moving ahead and trying to make these improvements in Coral Gables. I'm a bike rider, also a driver, and Jessica? Sue. I agree with some of the things Sue said as far as not having I feel the same way, like when there's no bike lane and people have to ride with your lane, I'm nervous because there's not much room to move over to the left to not hit them. So I'm slowing down, and trying to crawl or drive around them so that I'm not hitting them. And what if they fall over or something, and they're right in front of you? So they need their own space, and their own pathway. I just forgot what else I was going to say. But I think it's great to do that. And maybe, I don't know if the city has ever done this, but maybe bike riders need to be reminded of what they need to know as far as riding in the road and even on a bike path. One little thing that sometimes bothers me when I have been on a bike path, and you're going to make a turn, is the car driver. Do they look in their side mirror to make sure that somebody is not coming up when they make that right turn? Because I've wondered about that, and of course I watch to see where they're going. Maybe a little booklet or something, reminder of this is etiquette, when you're in the bike path, and maybe some drivers maybe need to be reminded. Thank you.
I think 37's right next to you.
Good evening. My name is Luisa Kelly. I live at 2200 North Greenway Drive, so I'm just like a block east of Alhambra. But I use Alhambra every single day. And yes, the situation with the bridge, I like to know that you already made so many projects. Have you ever encountered this problem with the bridge, or is something new for you? Well, I mean, whoever was doing all the study, I'm sure that you have encountered that.
The situation there has been brought to our attention. My very specific group, I can't speak for the entire city right now, but it has been brought up to us, and it's something that we are addressing through this process with our consultants.
So because that's a very, very important. I see the sign 20 miles an hour. I think that I'm the only one that respect that, and then I have 20 people back of me beeping because I'm only doing 25 miles an hour. So I hope that you really take in consideration the situation. I go to visit my friend Janet, and yeah, I take my life in my hands when I have to get out of her driveway. I think that somebody mentioned something to back up. One of your officials mentioned to her that she can back up the car. Forget it. You don't want to do anything. You just want to get out of there and be safe. So I am forward. I mean, I applaud all the things for bicycles. I grew up part of my life in Italy. I use the bicycle every single day, but let's not make that assumption. In Italy, the cars are this big. Maybe this. And I drive an SUV, and those pickup trucks scare the heck out of me. And I can see people being run over by a pickup truck. That will be really terrible. Good evening.
Do we have 38? No?
So I'll let Brooke answer that question.
So there's a varying widths of pavement, so we're very concerned about the trees and the tree roots. And so we have the ability to shift the pavement one way or the other, and we'll be looking at that. And if it gets... Both. The side, like for example, if there's a sidewalk going towards a tree, we can meander that sidewalk around there. So that's, well, no, the asphalt width, in some areas there's very little asphalt that has to be added, in some areas there's more. So we'll have to look at the roots. We can root prune trees on one side or two sides and let them regenerate. We relocate trees all the time. So we'll work with our arborists very closely on any trees that we have to get close to. But that's why we want to look at each section very, very individually and each tree individually too, because it'll vary case by case.
So on these pictures, is there any markation that shows which trees are going to be removed or what's happening with what trees?
We're not that far along yet. We have to come up with a concept and look at all the different options before we can make that determination.
I wanted to thank everyone. This was a better turnout than we could ever ask for, because when we get to hear both sides of the story, really, it just really does make for a better process and better outcomes. Again, if you didn't speak tonight and you want to be heard, you can go to the website. We have a comment portal there. All of those comments are viewable by the public. You can grab a comment card, write your name and address on that comment card. Like I said, we recorded everything tonight. Again, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. Actually, I had a very good question. We keep asking for everyone's emails, and the reason we're asking for everyone's... Wait, can I have everyone's attention, please? Can I have everyone's attention? We want your email address so that we can make sure we're getting you the information. So you will receive emails, and I ask you to check the website routinely, but you will receive emails.